Hey, you guys. Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I am your host, Dr. Jefferson, and do I have a topic to review today? So take a listen. Just listen.
It's not like, a random person off the.
So you meet her, and then what happened in your mind? You're like, this is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So it's not like, a random person off the street. Like, I've actually seen her. I've seen her family.
Right.
We're pretty much on the same path. So I said, this would be a good sister.
How was...
You guys are pretty much on the same path. Let me hear this one more time.
Before we even...
You're like, this is a good one to be with?
Well,
Serious,
actually,
how are
yes,
you?
because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife.
Have you ever heard someone actually repeat the Miranda rights that U.S. citizens have upon being arrested by the police officers? This is what we're going to get into momentarily, you guys. I hope that you were listening. It's a pretty interesting show. We're not just going to listen to the audio. I'm going to show you guys the video. I want you guys to take time and pay close attention to the body language of the people in this video. And although I have brought you guys coverage and we've discussed Brother Polite's arrest, the charges against him, and those kinds of things, I want to kind of speak to some other things about this particular scenario. Okay, I want to speak to the specifics of what you guys just heard. So let me go ahead and play these disclaimers, and we are going to jump right on in here, and we're going to have this conversation. See you in a moment. So, hello again. Welcome back, you guys. As I said earlier, my name is Dr. Lakeanda Jefferson, and I am the host of Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. Today, we're going to have an accountability conversation around this topic, and this topic is about predatory behavior in the polyamorous culture. As you guys know, I am a huge supporter and advocate of people who are different and differences in people and preferences, all of that all together. But what I am not a huge advocate of is predatory behavior. And when it comes to people in our community, Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson is an accountability platform dedicated to expanding ideals around constructs that interrupt positive behavior, behavior that is conducive of our overall gain and growth and maturation in this world as Black and melanated people in America and abroad. And this is another topic that is just like a pain in my side, but we're going to do this. So, oh man. Please understand that this particular video will be viewed not only for criticism, but also for education and expounding purposes. I started a couple of segments ago, and I kind of melded some of the content that I typically air and talk about in an in-depth way on my Love and Intimacy podcast. Sorry, guys. And, I started talking to you guys about different dynamics and different structures and different options as far as like people who are attempting to build their ideal polyamorous relationship, because there are some basic polycules that guide the constructs of what it is that those dynamics entail. Polyamorous relationships traditionally have been about intimacy that's outside of the bounds of sex, but more so within the bounds of trust, transparency, and wealth building. That is everything polyamory. Understanding that systems lead to success. So that's what polyamorous lifestyle living is about. Alternative lifestyle living would be any type of lifestyle that is not a part of what is deemed to be popular culture in whatever area that we're talking about. In this discussion, we're talking about American culture, or should I say westernized modern day culture. So westernized modern day culture supports primarily heterosexual relationships with one partner and another partner who are moving towards establishing congruence with one another for the sake of their relationship and legacy lines within the context of only one another. There have been several arguments over the course of the last couple of decades between people who are a part of alternative lifestyle living, who are invested in heterosexual and homosexual people equally because they respect differences between people, and people who are part of popular Western culture. And those people who are a part of popular Western culture tend to think that their views are typically more important and have more merit than people who don't believe in those things. Those people are typically Christian people. We're just going to call a thing today so that we can get to the gist of this conversation. I would like to do that. I want to invite you guys, as you're coming in, to feel free to share your questions, your comments, anything, whatever your feelings are around this topic, whether we're talking about these types of predatory behaviors that happen within polyamorous alternative lifestyle living, or popular culture dynamics where we see more of a heterosexual type of relationship evolving. But predatory behavior definitely is a huge proponent in that culture as well. So you are welcome, Liz. Hey, the People's Lounge, how are you? I want to go ahead and give a big shout out to the chat, because you guys are always amazing. If you guys are viewing me on Facebook, feel free to come over and join the conversation on YouTube, because I feel like you guys can have a more collaborative engagement when you're all on one platform versus depending on me to post the comments. But so yeah, there's that. I have no words for what you guys heard. If you've been here from the very beginning of the live, and you heard that audio, you're about to now watch the video. And I want to say that this is not necessarily the best video that we've ever featured, but hey, you got to work with what you got, okay? So we are going to listen to, we're going to pay attention to the things that this particular person who took this video, it's actually a video of a video. He took the video with his phone. He posted it onto his YouTube page. I'm going to post a link to his page so you guys have his content in the description once I'm done doing this video. So if you guys are interested in checking out additional content that he has, or you guys are interested in going over there and viewing the video or making some content as a result of what you see here, whatever those things are, you'll have the link so you can be able to do that. But man, this is heavy. Predatory behavior happens in all cultures. You got people everywhere who are going to be predatory towards others, okay? There is always going to be a hunter and a hunted dynamic in humanity. That's just how human contact works. Animals in general, actually. Yeah, we're all animals. But let me just go ahead and let's play this, and you guys tell me what you're thinking. Let me know what's on your mind as you're viewing the content. If you have any comments at all, go ahead, feel free to post them, but please remain as respectful as possible, even in your engagements, and respecting other people's perception of what they're viewing. You're viewing, you guys are viewing together. Please remain respectful, okay? So I'm going to start from the beginning.
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore because
That's right.
when I started coming, I was really young. So I actually
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore. And so I started coming, I was really young. So I actually
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore. And so I seen the...
Let me hear it again. Let me hear that.
So I actually
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17.
You was 16, 17 when you was around and stuff, right? Now.
So I just want to clarify really quickly. He did go back and rewind and play that part a couple of times because his point of contention in this conversation is that Brother Polite, the young man that we're viewing in this video, has been arrested on charges of engaging in sexual behavior with a minor. Okay, he turned himself in Miami. I did a review on the arrest and the allegations against him in the police report based off of what the mother gave to the police and the daughter gave to the police. Okay. And based off of that, remember, you guys, do y'all remember when we did that review after his arrest? Okay. Based on the content therein, right? We talked about the fact that if he's got a decent lawyer, he's definitely going to walk based on the charges that were currently brought up against him. Those charges right there, because the burden of proof is on the petitioner. And so the respondent in the cases, they're not meant to prove that they did or didn't do a thing. They're just there to respond as the proof is presented right in the case. And so I told you guys that the next thing for the prosecutor to do would be to take it up a notch and try to publicly execute this guy, right? To kind of do the mob justice thing. So what happens is, if you don't have enough, you want to air as much content on media as you can so you can get more people to come forward and say that within the statutes of limitations, this person has done something to them, right? So that the case can gain ground and public scrutiny and all those things that lead to an unfair trial and mistrial. Tainted jury. So anyway, let's continue to listen.
Hold on.
This is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So,
What you say,
coming
Aminette?
around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as.
Hold on. So 16, 17, basically meaning 16. Then Aminette admits. Would you admit again, Aminette? Let's hear this.
Co-wife. So, like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even.
Boy, if he was the
consider her as
prosecutor in
a
this
co-wife.
case.
So,
Okay. So 16, 17. She basically said 16. Then Aminette doubles down and said she had been coming there for years. So basically they was fucking with her for, she said years, plural. So they was fucking with her since 13 then. Watching and grooming. Hit 16. Come on, be a second wife at 16. Interesting. Let's hear that again.
it's not like,
Do you guys think that they were grooming her? Just based off of what was said here and based off of what the second wife that they're referring to said. Do you think that they were grooming her? Because from her recollection, she had been around since she was 16 or 17.
a random person off the.
So you meet her, and then what happened in your mind? You're like, this is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So, it's not like, a random person off the street. Like, I've actually seen her. I've seen her family.
Right.
We're pretty much on the same path. So I said, this would be a good sister.
How was...
You guys are pretty much on the same path. Let me hear this one more time.
Before we even...
You're like, this is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So it's not like, a random person off the street. Like, I've actually seen her. I've seen her family.
Right.
We're pretty much on the same path. So I said, this would be a good sister.
How was Brother Polite able to convince you to do this?
Wow.
To do this. How was he able to convince you to do this? He trying to make sure he protect this woman, y'all.
Oh, your choice of words. Well,
even she noticed the choice of words.
In other words, how was he able to convince you to mess with this 15, 16, 17-year-old and marry her?
Like, for me, I thought more of the future. And as they mentioned, I was conceiving at the time. So I know I didn't have both parents.
Oh, Aminette, you going to jail. Girl, you was going to jail with your hubby.
Things that I was lacking growing up. And I wanted more. No, I wanted more for my child.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I can see how I can benefit because I also wanted to educate my child. So I was able to homeschool. My child was able to see both parents, and she was able to grow into inherited wealth because we already erected our own businesses. So I said, it's different, but I'm willing to give it a try. And he showed me results.
Candy girl.
I've seen results, and she was very positive. It was very positive. We was on the same path, like mentally as well.
Oh, okay.
And we all wanted more for each other.
Right.
So I said, okay.
That's amazing. And so, were you raised by both parents?
Nah, my father walked out at age 8, and I met my mother when I turned 17. She died the week I met her.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
From
that.
cancer and diabetes.
How about you? Were you raised by both parents?
No.
No?
My father left when I was young. I don't know.
You know what? I wish I knew the name of his mother. What is his mother's name?
You know, this is the only part that I didn't like. I hate the fact that people can be so extra. Like, you want to be all in these folks' business. First of all, his mama ain't got nothing to do with nothing about nothing. Why you want to go digging into that man's personal business to find out whatever you want to find out about her? Stick to the people at hand. Whose mama you need to be worried about? Who is the second wife's mother? Who is her father? You know? Right. More things are going to come out about him, because that's exactly why the prosecution decided to go ahead and take this on. The DA would not have taken this case on given the information they currently had. It's not enough to get a conviction. They don't have the money to prosecute a case that they can't guarantee a win from. So, of course, mob justice is the way that you do it every time. But why is man so nosy, y'all? Why is he so nosy about this man mama?
Has he ever mentioned his mother's name? Anybody?
What he looks like. But I had a stepfather.
Women don't normally like each other. And so how do you ladies deal with each other? Because you know how women are, right?
Right, yeah. I'm a woman, right?
Right. So how do you guys deal with each other when that thing comes up?
Okay, well, it's like this. Siblings, right? They all don't get along. Like, if it's something personal.
Oh,
like,
I can believe it.
And I'll go to her, or she'll come to me, and, like, we'll sit down and we'll build. But the main thing, we normally just have everyone out, children included. Everyone speak their mind. This is what's bothering me. How can we fix the situation?
And you feel the same way about it? That's how you work it out?
Yeah, pretty much. So we all know, like, females can be very catty.
Yeah.
We know that can come into play, or the ego. And so it's really just bearing in mind what we started this for. Right. And also knowing a person. Because when you get to know a person, then you understand that they're no longer your enemy. You don't have to actually compete against them, you know, because you're for them and they're for you. So it just makes it easier when things like that come along.
And so when he brought in the next two, all three of you got together and discussed the same
That's
process.
usually how it is. And ultimately, before that even happens, we'll get a feel of the female, because everyone is inherently good and has inherently bad in them too. It's a choice, right? So it's really vibing with the female itself, because honestly, he may be the center of the relationship,
Right.
But if the females are not in a cohesive unit, if they're not communicating and they're not for it, it's not gonna work. That's true. It's really not gonna work.
Interesting. So she's been coming around the bookstore for years, she say. So let's just put 3 years on it. 13. Then they hook up at 16. Oh, I'm a that polite. Y'all going to jail.
I agree. So that's one of the main reasons I wanted to play the video. I wanted you guys to get a feel for the energy in the space, right? The defensive space that the first wife had. And the second wife. You know, the fact that this particular content creator kept going back to that one point of contention, pointing out the age, and the process for this particular couple who's looking for a second wife, what their process looks like. I thought that was quite interesting. But I did find it to be interesting, not only the way her body language was, but also how defensive Polite's energy is, and how defensive the first wife body language. And even, for her, she's recognizing the fact that this man is choosing his words carefully, because obviously he's thinking to himself, You were forced in this. You were manipulated into this. And so I'm going to pull this out of you. That's what this interview was thinking. And so he goes for that angle and continues with that energy the entire time. So I found that to be quite interesting. So I'm not all the way caught up with this, but where is her mother? Yeah, where is the mother of, what's her name? Rayette? The second girl. Let me go back to it. The one who is the second wife.
I was like really young, so I actually.
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore, and so I started coming. I was really young, so I actually.
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore, and so I seen the.
Let me hear it again. Let me hear that.
So I actually.
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17.
You was 16, 17 when you was around and stuff, right? Now, hold on.
Is this a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we.
So let's talk about this comment right here.
Consider her as.
Okay. I do feel like she cleaned it up. I feel like she did. Says it's still too young to start eyeballing a young lady for a polyamorous relationship. Well, I'm going to talk about that. Okay, I'm going to talk about that because a couple of things are there, right? So in polyamorous, alternative lifestyle culture is quite different than pop culture. I will say that. I've seen people vetting relationships as young as 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds in some countries. You know, excuse me, the age of maturation, I think, comes with the culture's conditioning of people. In America, I think that that's a very fragile age to be looking for a girl, okay, to complete your poly. For so many reasons. You know, it's concerning to me that this stuff is surfacing now in an abundance and people are actually talking about this in a huge way. I'm not sure what show that is, Official Urban Therapist. And good evening to you as well. So, Candy Girl, do you know what show this was? Do you know? Are you aware? Oh, I got you. Because we don't have this conversation tonight. But I think that the teen years are very, very volatile years to be vetting a polyamorous relationship out of a young lady, because there are a lot of things they're going through during those ages. Between the ages of 14 and 16, human beings are going through the phasal development of identity crisis, the first intricate identity crisis. So they go through one, adolescence, right? So that's the ages to 11, about 9 to 12, anywhere from there. About 11 years old is kind of when it really peaks. Okay, so yeah, Official Urban Therapist, you're right. And so going through that first phase of identity crisis isn't as tremendous as this phase at 14 to 16. 14 to 16 is kind of where you're separating the lions, from the prey. Okay. You got people that are natural leaders that are naturally going to gravitate towards seeking and paving their own way. And then you got other folks that are really huge on following and just trying to survive in life. And that's what they figure out at this phase of development. So it's quite challenging for girls and boys. Okay. And in alternative lifestyle culture, I think that we have to look at the fact that asking a person to come into a situation in which they've not already been raised in and conditioned to understand intricately, it's quite difficult for us to push those ideals, right, on them. So I think that we have to be careful. They're playing a game. But I think we have to be careful when we're saying that it's okay for us to be searching for folks in this age range. Okay. And I'm not going to say he wasn't already grooming or looking toward building with this young lady when she was 13 or 14, because let me tell you something. The story I'm going to share with you guys tonight about my personal experience seeing this firsthand is one that kind of just blew me to pieces. Okay. And I still know the young lady. We're still very much in contact or whatever. But I find it interesting every time I look at what she has now in life, where she is now in life, and how she was positioned by the person that I consider to be the predator in her life. You know what I'm saying? And it's quite sad to me that it happens more often than not in America, especially in the age range of young ladies that are now in their 20s. So I'm going to play a little bit of that first little piece, okay, for you guys again, for the folks that are just coming in.
Co-wife. So I go to the bookstore because
That's right.
When I started coming, I was really young. So I actually
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore. And so I started coming, I was really young. So I actually
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore. And so I seen the...
Let me hear it again. Let me hear that.
So I actually...
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17.
It was 16, 17.
Okay, my bad. I was asking if you guys could hear it. Like I couldn't see it on my screen, but so I'm asking if you guys could hear. So confirm that you guys could hear that part. I guess if you're raised in that environment, your perspective would be much different. Your perspective is different. Okay, awesome. So just that beginning part was what I wanted to replay for you guys. Because what I want you to see is that you see the messages. She's looking to guidance, right? She's looking to the guidance of the first wife. If you guys look right here, even just look at the way she's observing her as she's conversing. But also I want you guys to look very closely as to where Polite's eyes, direction, his body language is pointed towards.
When you was around and stuff, right? Now, hold on.
This is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So,
what you say, Amanette?
Around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as...
Hold on. So 16, 17.
So...
Okay. So doubles down. They was fucking with her since 13. Interesting. Let's hear that again.
It's not like, a random person off the...
So you meet her, and then what happened in your mind? You're like, this is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So it's not like, a random person off the street. Like, I've actually seen her. I've seen her family.
Right.
We're pretty much on the same path. So I said, this would be a good sister.
How was...
You guys were pretty much on the same path.
Okay, so I found that to be interesting. Are you guys looking at the body language and the eye directions and everything of the second wife versus Amanette? Like, are you guys paying attention to what's going on here? She's trying to do the observation of the person interviewing them to find out, like, where you going with this? At the same time as her paying attention to Polite in his observations of the first wife, and the first wife in her body language and what she is choosing to say and what she's not choosing to say. this is one of the main reasons that I talk to the fact that it's about a very sensitive age to try and, select a young lady from American culture for a polyamorous relationship, because they don't really have a secure sense of self yet. They're still working on that part. And you literally groomed her. Literally. In every way. What do you guys think about what we're watching so far? What do you guys think about the way Polite is positioned for the interview and the women are positioned? I agree. So, excuse me. Let's talk about the development of a healthy polyamorous relationship. I like the fact that Amanette highlighted some things that were very important over the course of her, doing this interview. Polyamorous relationships are highly, highly dependent on legacy lines, wealth, familial and financial wealth, but also so many other things, right? Effective communication, a very healthy parental hold-on and system for children that are a part of that system, and allowing children to have a full-on support from multiple people from one system. Now, some polyamorous relationships include sister wives or helper wives who are not physically sexually involved with a couple, or one or the other of the people who are the main couple, right? But they are there for a supportive context, should I say. And that supportive context is a little bit different than that of a nanny, because they are a part of every decision that's made for the system. And they're very much considered to be an equal in parenting, even in inheriting what has been built by the system, contributing even. Okay, so, I don't know. Says, I think they're scared of being exposed for grooming her. They seem tense. I agree. But she doesn't even know to not be the way that she naturally is, because in them grooming her, her behaviors have contoured themselves to complement whatever the primary components of the couple are doing. So you notice the interview would go to her for her thoughts about, okay, so what's your way of resolving issues in the system, right? Trying to look for something different, looking for the exception in, congruence in a relationship, if you will. But he doesn't get that from her, because she refuses to divest from the pragmatic principles that this couple have groomed her to encompass. Okay, so I want to know, how many of you consider polyamorous relationships to be something that are uncommon, because they're quite common inside of pop culture dynamics? A lot of folks just don't know when they're moving into one. So I want to know how many of you think it's uncommon. And what do you guys think about polyamorous relationships? Do you have the overarching thought process that it's about sex and threesomes, or having multiple wives, or like, what are your thoughts, if you guys want to share? So in the interim, I'm going to jump into this conversation, and we're going to talk a bit about a situation that I had the experience with a very long time ago. So I met a young lady after her beau, right, was kind of out in situations, okay, and happened to run across me while I was single post my first marriage, right? And so, when I started to ask questions about, some of the incongruences in communication, he had a particular time in the space of the day that he wanted to reach out to me. He was aspiring to be a doctor. I was a, practicing MD at the time. Some things just were misaligned for me. So I was just like, what, we're just probably not a good fit. We just can't ever find the time to meet up and see one another in person. And this is a time where they didn't have like the FaceTiming and things like that, right? So when I started asking questions, then he was like, well, you know what? I just want to come out and be honest because you've given me so much. You've been honest with me about your lifestyle and how you live and blah, blah, blah. So I do have a situation. I have a second wife. I have two wives. Like my first wife has left me, right? And that's why I'm looking for another first wife. That's what he said. So that's why I didn't disclose anything to you about me having this situation at all, right? And so I was like, okay, before you say no, just give me a chance to, sit down and let you meet her. And then you can tell me what you think, right? So we arranged a time to meet, to sit down and have this conversation because I had lots of questions. And so we met, and my first observation, because I know a lot of people look at me and they're like, dang, she look like she's like in her 20s, right? Don't be out there talking about anything else. Type the comment, I'm gonna block you. But no, seriously, especially like at that point of my life, you know what I mean? I could easily go for like a teenager. Just gonna be honest. I've always looked very young. And so when I met her, I was thinking the same exact thing. I was like, dang, she looks like a teeny bopper. Like, huh. No. So finally I asked the question of him. He was in his 30s. And I was just like, so how old is she? Because I'm listening to her, her conversation and the direction of her conversation, things she's interested in, things they do together. I'm asking those types of questions. And he was like, how old do you think she is? I said, well, I think she's at about 17 or 18. Okay. And he told me at that time that they had been together. They had a 4-year-old child. I want you guys to hear what I'm saying. Really tune in. Bring your ears close. They had a 4-year-old child at the time. She had just had a baby. The baby was 6 months old. I said she had to be around 16 or 17 years old, right? He was like, oh, no, I would never date anybody that young. I was like, oh, okay. Well, how old is she? Well, And I was like, okay, yeah, no, I don't. And so he wasn't answering the question. So I just asked her. And she was like, oh, I just turned 18. Yeah. So then I was like, well, you know what? Why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you go and get us something to drink? And we're going to have a conversation. Okay. All right. We're going to talk. Let us talk. I just want to get to know her. Right. So he is reluctant to leave at first. And then he gets up and he goes about his business. And then now we're going to get to the conversation. So I started asking her some questions about, her age, when she met him, where they met, where she's from, and things like that. Over the course of the conversation, what I heard in her responses were, I started having problems at home. My mother thought that I was sexually promiscuous because I was missing sometimes, when I was like 12 or 13. I met him at the corner store, started hanging out with him, and it would get late sometime. And I was like, so what exactly were you guys doing with your time together? Well, he had told me that he had a wife, but she was okay with him having a girlfriend. And I met the wife. The wife was really nice, and then when she got sick, his wife and him had 2 kids together. And when she got sick, it was kind of like, okay, so would you like to help us? Right? To move in and help us. By then, the relationship with her mother had grown even more intense. And another point of contention that was interesting about this story is that she didn't have a father either. Her father left. Okay. So she ran away from Chicago to Atlanta with them at 14. And she was already pregnant. That's when things started to go really left for his primary wife in the situation, as they were trying to vet a third wife, because the primary wife refused to sleep with her because she was underage. He didn't mention any of these things, right? So okay. So let's talk about this. I'm sitting here having a conversation with her, okay, who is now a young lady at age 18. So you are grown now. And so I'm asking her the questions, I don't want to lead in the question. I don't want to lead in any of the, conversation. And so I'm asking her, so what do you think has happened over the course of you guys being together, and of course of his first wife leaving him, the third wife that you guys ended up having after you, and the fourth wife that you guys ended up having after you, all of them leaving him, all of them divesting from the situation, right? And she was a straight female when he got her, and now she was a bisexual female. Whatever it is that he asked her to do, she was willing to do. These are things that she told me, okay? She told me that he bought her here and convinced someone to let her start stripping 2 months after she had their first child. I told you guys how old she was, right? Right? Still to this day, she's stripping. She just finally woke up and saw that, he was exactly what I said he was. He was a creep. Entire creep. Like, ew. So let me, and she ended up leaving him. He took the one child, the older kid, wouldn't let her have that kid. And, she left with the younger kid. Can't get any child support or anything like that because he makes his women work and support him. So there's that. Let's go ahead and look at some of these comments. I think they're scared. Okay. I think I looked at that one. Says she doesn't seem to have much of a self-identity. Correct. I think a lot of Black women have been in poly relationships since they first baby daddy. Mr. Brooks, welcome to the chat. I love it. So polyamory is quite common. And when you look at relationships and that take place in pop culture, that includes polyamory dynamics. If you look at blended families are very much a polyamorous situation. So polyamory doesn't always include sexual relationships that are intimate. Ultimately, it's about intimacy. That means close proximity of relationships, trust, right? And more importantly, transparency. So communication, lines of communication. Says they're very common because a lot of men have more than one family and women know about each other, though it's probably no traditional polygamous relationship. Polyamory and polygamy are different in the fact that polygamy means that a man seats the head or the center part of the relationship, and he's the person that is responsible for marrying the other members who are brought in as first, second, and tertiary wives. So what that looks like is a woman could be in a polyandrous marriage. That means woman-led polyamorous relationship, and she's the person responsible for marrying the people that she marries, whether it's men or women, combination therein. Same thing with polygamy. But that's basically what it is. Now, in those situations, believe it or not, because those are blended families that I was just discussing, yes, they are considered to be polyamory or alternative lifestyle culture because they're not a part of what popular culture deems to be normative, a part of what's accepted and necessary in order to keep a family or a child stable and raise them with a sound sense of self, okay? So official urban therapist says, I personally can't do it. Monogamous is best suited for me. Okay. I have questions. Do you think if R. Kelly is convicted, men who have fathered children with teens will be soon? No. And I'm going to be very honest. I think that for a very, very long time, American popular culture has normalized rape culture in so many ways. So there's a lot of work to be done. And I really just don't think that R. Kelly is going to be convicted. I think that they are trying to get mob justice for him as well. And we have to be people that think along the lines of pragmatics. If we want the laws to change, first we need to reshape society. So if people out here aren't even watching out for their kids, they aren't even taking care and educating their kids, providing for their kids far and large, right? I'm talking about the vast majority of us. How is it that we expect a society to develop laws that say our children will not be done in a particular way, exposed to sexualized content and material, given the way the nature of media is right now, and things like that? So I just think it's just, my answer is going to be no. And men aren't the only people who do this. Women do it too. I agree. I prefer monogamy. Although I don't knock others. I've been approached by a polygamist and he had 2 wives, wanted to make me the third. I politely declined. Right. Mm-hmm. Says, yep, I met many of these types of women in my lifetime. Which kinds? The ones that have been in situations where they ran away from their family systems, trying to redefine self and ended up being strippers, or what? Oh, yeah. He was trying really hard. And I mean, he pursued and pursued and pursued. Let me tell you, I will not. Right. He was. So in polyamorous relationships, if we're gonna move that type of idea, right, or those ideals to pop culture or Western culture dynamics, if we're gonna normalize it, because let me tell you something, I'm a part of a lot of groups around polyamory. I'm a polyamory lifestyle coach. I help them vet healthy relationships and all of that good stuff. And I've been doing this for a very long time. And what I will say, healthy polyamory exists in America and abroad because people understand that the why of their dynamic. And I will say that's the thing that the young lady mentioned that is of value. You do have to understand and keep at the forefront of your mind the outcome that you desire, which is why it is that you decided to build this polyamorous relationship in the first place. For some people, it's about sexual frustration. They become very frustrated with what their sex lives look like, and it looks boring. So out of relationships where swinging becomes the principle and the way that they move in their relationship in Western culture, now they want to call it polyamory and invest in that culture because it's more accepted there. Whereas it's not accepted in those social circles that they very much may be a part of within the Western culture dynamic of pop culture. Okay. Now, in this scenario, with Brother Polite here, I don't even know when this video took place. And I don't even know if the courts have access to the second wife. And I don't know what Miami statutes of limitations are. But I will say this. He better tread carefully. And he better tread lightly. Because if he's got the right prosecutor, not only is he going to jail, but also his wife. Because even though this man who is doing this interview with the two of them has tried to back off of the endorsement that she has an active role of engagement, right, in grooming this young lady. She said that she was asking around, okay, and she had been advised that the young lady had been around the bookstore quite a bit, so she was out here in these streets preying on her as well. Okay. I hear a lot about those high schools that were for pregnant teens. Had girls that were pregnant at 12, most pregnant again before 18, and some were dating grown men and the mothers knew. Oh, yeah. And in the 90s, this was something that was very common. So that's why I say it depends on the age of maturation in that culture. So if we were having this conversation, you guys, and we were in the 90s, which is why I feel the way I feel about R. Kelly, if we were in the 90s having the conversation about people in the 90s who were selected when they were in their teens, the vast majority of kids who were born in the 70s and the 80s, okay, were growing up mid-90s, they would have been teenagers. And those people, right? Those people were latchkey kids. So that looked completely different. And that looked like lots of kids were actually being emancipated, moving out of their parents' houses at 16. Many of the young girls were involved with grown men in relationships. And I'm not saying that I approve of that, but I'm saying it was more like what we see in other cultures. Other cultures look at a woman as becoming mature at age 15, hence the quinceañera. So quinces are meant for young women who are now stepping into womanhood, right? So in Hispanic culture at 15, that's when they become a woman, right? And the same for boys. Boys become men at 14. And so you have to really, I'm looking at cultural dynamics here in America and having this discussion, because I feel like oftentimes we see this type of predatory behavior at a volatile age of maturation for young American kids, because these American kids are conditioned differently. You guys are given a whole lot more enabling. Let's put it like that. You're coddled for the vast majority of your lives if you're a kid that was born in the late 90s or after. And so it's the level of maturation of these young people, you know, that's the issue. Excuse me. So you saying that oh wait, Mr. Brooks, are you saying that Brother Polite is not from Miami? Okay, he's from New York. I just know he turned himself into Miami PD. Mr. Brooke, like, listen, don't put that on us. I ain't out here looking for no teeny boppers. But here's the thing, you guys. I want us to not, not take the idea that polyamory is predatory in and of itself, but people are predatory. And I'm not going to lie. I think that people use polyamory, the ideals around polyamory, to push that they are elitists of society and to draw in those people that are lost, looking for congruent sense of self, who are so confused as to where they're going to go or how they're going to make it in life. And they draw them in with those types of narratives. I can provide, we can provide, you can have this, you can have that. All you got to do is contribute in this way to our system. It looks great to her. It's the same as like pushing the sugar daddy concept on these young girls and OnlyFans page. So I don't know. We've got to do better. That's for sure. Oh, excuse me. So you said Polite had a third wife who left him around 2013. Her daughter ran it. What kind of name is that? Renin it? I don't know. Ran away to be with Polite, and it's alleged that she is now a wife. He wrote a book with her on polyamory at age 13. Says, but I went to a high school football game yesterday, and I'm telling you, those young girls dressing way. Listen, I say the same thing when I see young girls walking from the school bus stop into the neighborhoods here in Atlanta. Like, and the thing is, I don't think schools have dress codes anymore. I don't think so, because the young girl I saw yesterday, she had on like a little halter top, belly out. And then you like, girls, thick, being a girl that is a fat girl, having fat rolls and stuff like that isn't a point of contention that's shameful for a young girl. They're very body positive. So, go live your life. But why you got to bear all of that? In the classroom setting, though. Like, I'm just curious as to what's going on in the parents' mind when you allow your children to leave the house looking like that. Like, what we doing? So it's a lot for me, you guys. It's all of it for me. It's the fact that you're predatory towards young girls that are very confused. And even if they wake up one day and become women who understand the world around them is one that can be safe, where they can have healthy relationships in a monogamous way or polygamous way with people that are not predatory, I feel like there are a large amount of men and women within the polyamorous community who openly and willingly will prey on young people because of their level of vulnerability, because they need stability, right? And their mind is so misconstrued. All schools need uniforms. You know what? I used to be anti-uniform, but I'm gonna agree with you on that. I'm gonna do that. There are court documents on Polite being stripped of parental rights by ACS and him trying to sue the state of New York. The third wife took the baby away when she found out he was after her daughter. Good. Well, he's gonna make somebody a nice wife in jail. So what's different about Central Florida than Miami? So how are you guys feeling? What are you guys thinking about what we see like going on in this video? Like, what do you guys think about the body language and the way that this young lady is relating? Right, Candy Girl, right. So give me just a moment. I'm going to take a break, grab a bottle of water, and I'll be right back with you guys. Okay. But yeah, so how do you guys feel about what we've seen in this video so far? Like, what do you guys think about the fact that this young lady was trying to be protected in here? Let's see. Hold on.
Path. Let me hear this one more time.
Before we even
You're like, this is a good one to be with?
well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So it's not like, a random
This
person
part.
off the street. Like, I've actually seen her. I've seen her.
How do you feel about
family.
this part, you guys?
We're pretty much on the same path. So I said, this would be a good sister.
How was Brother Polite?
Right, and then you say you guys are on the same path. What does that really mean? Like what does that mean? On the same path? She's a child. What path? You looking for a nanny? And you looking for somebody to satisfy the sexual needs of your husband, who's clearly gaslit you into thinking that, okay, you need to find him another woman while you recover after having the baby? That kind of path, and she's needing stability, that kind of path, you're talking about that led you together, huh? People, you cannot make this stuff up, people. You cannot. So I'm just curious as to how you guys feel. I want you to continue to express your feelings about what you see as predatory behavior, because we're not going to act like human sex trafficking isn't a thing, because it is. We're not going to act like people are not predatory on young people, because they see there is a need there that those young people don't yet have the capacity to satisfy for themselves, because they're trying to look and live as they see in media and the hype, right? We're not going to act like that. We're going to call a thing, and we're going to say, hey, we need to do better. We need to do better when it comes to molding and shaping the understandings of our kids. And we need to do better when it comes to us protecting our kids, because we're the ones that are responsible for doing just that. I couldn't find his IG page. I couldn't. But you guys know I'm not like a huge social media, guru and all that good stuff. I don't know how to get around the social media constructs inside of the phone, because technology is hard for me. So if you find it, if you have it, send it to my email, doclqj@gmail.com, or send it to the producer, Mr. Kelso Brown @gmail.com. I think doclqj@gmail is easier. Let's see. I think he is pimping all of them and runs the sex thing. Yeah, right. I'm telling you. But I don't think it will come out as that, because he's openly marketed himself as a polyamorous, person. I don't know. I think that that's what they're doing to protect it, because then they become a part of the protected group of LGBTQIA plus. You see what I'm saying? So there are so many levels here, and I feel like the LGBTQIA plus community are the people that need to be holding these folks accountable and coming to the table and saying, "Hey, listen, you're making life difficult for alternative lifestyle people who want healthy relationships, who want a healthy investment in the culture, and you're just a fraud." Like, I don't know. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. See if you can send it to my email just in case. I don't have the ability to find it though. You said, well, I'm going to be honest. So I don't really think that Kevin Samuels is a bad guy. I think people mistake me oftentimes. I just think that I don't like him personally because I feel like he's an old creep who tries to objectify women and prey on the young girls, right? Who have no direction. And when people don't want to listen to him, he tries to depedestalize them and disrespect them and verbally assassinate them and their character on his show. So, says a video of him fighting with a wow. So let's see if I can find this. When you do the search, do you have to capitalize the B? Oops. Okay, now I see. This is it. He's got 309,000 followers. Wow. So is he only still married to Amunette? Well, wait. This is interesting. Amunette got some little surgeries done, huh? She don't look like the same woman on that thing. Says fighting with her when he brought her back to the hotel and Polite was trying to prevent her from getting the child out of the car. He's over 6 feet. The mother's 5'1", not a good look. Is that the one the young girl was talking about on the one with the police report where she said he took her to the hotel and Polite had asked her to take her to an after party or something? You guys, I'm sorry. She doesn't look like the same. This picture, sorry, I had to do this. Doesn't look like the person in this interview. How long ago was this interview done? Does anybody know? I'm trying to get to her. There we go. Like, how long ago was the interview done here, though? That is so not the same. Talking about a glow up. Okay. Girl, I'm trying to get a good look here because she got on a sheer top. Even her boobs are bigger. Damn, it's crazy. Under a decade and all this can happen. Goals. I don't know. Maybe it could be a really good bra though. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. This is juicy, you guys. I must look. I don't see the video of him fighting with the. Who is Riley? I don't know why I always just go straight to look at him, but look at him. It's not winning. Well, says out of all my wives, you are actually a successful model, and paradoxically enough, you do not like posting pictures and videos the most. Oftentimes people say I do not like you the most out of all of the women just because I do not post you as much. I love you and I'm extremely proud. So he is posting her body. I mean, she's got a nice body, right? So says she had a BBL and implants. Looks like it too. But this one looks like she's all natural. So I guess that's a good thing. That was 4 years ago? Listen. Okay, so now I'm looking. I don't know who this one in the middle, the one who's right next to him. Girl, she had a glow up. I'm sorry, y'all. This is a huge glow up. This is goals in life here. Can you guys see that? I'm trying to make it to where the light isn't glaring too much. But who is that baby right next to him? Like, yeah, he knew he was going to be arrested. So, but is this a different young lady, though? Is this a different mom and daughter duo other than the ones that filed that police report against him and for the party thing? Candy Girl? Man, listen. Y'all mean something else. Y'all men are something else, okay? Don't be out here trying to cover up your craziness and act like, you're a part of the polyamorous culture just because you out here getting these little girls, okay? She's a whole on this picture. That little girl I saw, she's a child. I don't know. It's rough out here, y'all. It's rough. Parents who care about their kids, let me encourage you to be parents who advocate for your child's safety and keep them safe against predators. Give them all the information that you can. Try not to prevent them from living their best life and growing into their glow-ups during their developmental stage of identity crisis. Support them by giving them the facts and not preventing them from doing what it is that they feel naturally inclined to do with accurate information. And try to listen and be a conduit to their maturation at that stage, because there are a host of predators out here. Like, there are. So the woman who filed as Puerto Rican, her name is Horacha. Oh, boy. Look, it's just sad, it really grinds my gears that you got people out here doing this still in this day and age. Like, and even that all of these young people, there are so many young people, so many young girls who are gravitating to the idea of the constructs of, okay, I'm going to use my body to get what I want right now because I know I'm not going to have it forever, right? As a result, it's spiraling insecurities in young women, but also promoting eating disorders and that kind of stuff. Like, we got just so much stuff going on. We don't need all of this. We do not need all of this. Yes, you have to believe your children. So if your children say that creep touched her, believe her. Even if she's lying, guess what? That creep, he's still a creep. And if she's lying, there is a deeper seated issue there to explore as to why she would pick him to lie on out of all people. So it says something about the relationship that you have with your child, but also probably something more deep about that person you have in your life. So, man, y'all be careful out here in these streets, especially you ladies. I know look, I'm not the only woman who has a very young physical appeal, right? I know it's lots of other women out there, and it's dangerous for women like us out here. Let me tell you something, because I have a lot of experiences that are very, disturbing. And all I do is share those experiences with my daughters, and especially the ones that are older. And I'm just out here to make sure that they're safe and they're protected. It's a lot of creeps out here. There are. You guys got to do your due diligence. Even if you don't have kids, protect these children, all these children, everybody's children, okay? So that is all that I have, you guys. I will see you guys later. Bye.
To a life can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.